Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. The Way Home Season 3 Episode 7 just dropped, and wow, so much went down. From shocking revelations to emotional moments, this episode had it all. Stick around as we break down everything that happened, including key twists, character developments, and what it all means for the rest of the season. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Let's get into it. As much as Kat wanted to save someone for Del to confide in when she most needed a shoulder, she also wanted to shield Alice for her role in Colton's death. Still, though, in this family there have been enough lies and half-truths to last for many lives. Consequences be damned, they must eventually start telling complete stories. Is it possible that the repercussions will be worse than anything else? Some secrets will reveal for the remainder of the hour, while others surface like light peeking through a locked door. However, prudence always comes into play whether the family uses the pond or conceals its power. Do you recall how Alice mostly concealed her trips throughout Season 1 The Way Home? Given how frequently people arrive and depart, they might as well place a ticket booth and a timetable board close by. The pond always gets you where you need to go, according to legend, but the program may be breaking that rule right now. In addition to learning that people have experienced moments that no one was aware of, Evie recalls that Kat saved them in 1965. Now that we know he was in 1814, I believe Colton was attempting to return to save Nick, even if he didn't make it. He was quick to tell her she was crazy. Even though he has changed so much in such a short period of time, I'm now even more fascinated by the invisible ink messages he and Evie exchange after being forbidden to talk following the pond event. Colton had always been skilled at lying, but Alice was probing him to see if he knew more than he admitted. What would be different about that encounter? Alice was giving enough away that he should have realized she might also be a wanderer if he had been back. Did anyone else find it strange that he wanted Alice to keep the messages in the books from Evelyn? There was more to their narrative, but Del's entrance altered everything, even if it was meant to be a magnificent love. There was no turning back once she entered his life. As certain as the pond is of who goes where, he felt certain of his future with her. Kat was rather disappointed that she couldn't cross the pond to retrieve Jacob if Alice was using it as an escalator. She didn't have to worry, though. In 1814, her family and friends supported her. Elijah wanted Jacob to go back to his own time, but he was thrilled that he stuck behind for a while. William is oak on his own and will be returning. He had the pleasure of bringing Jacob into the man he is today, but he is aware that he has a lot of work ahead of him. It wasn't just Elijah who hoped Jacob would change his mind. He and Thomas were invited to Susanna's rooms at Lingermore, where she eventually showed them her picture of Catherine and the significance of their friendship to her. Jacob wasn't prepared to confront his sister, though. Thomas gently urged his friend to return home after he accused Kat of bringing his world to an abrupt halt. He reminded Jacob that while Kat fought to bring Jacob home, she was the only one who bore the shame of her father's passing. She was attempting to save Jacob, not only passing the time. Only your closest friends can sometimes assist you recognize the reality of the internal conflicts you are facing. When Thomas warned Jacob that harboring that kind of rage is poison, and that it is best to let it go as quickly as possible, he was speaking from experience. Thomas had every intention of following Jacob through when he bid him farewell at the pond. He should have told Jacob, but he didn't. Jacob might have been able to bring him along. Thomas became irate when he didn't move anywhere and firmly declared enough as he arrived at the edge of the pond. I had a sneaking suspicion that he was shutting Kat out, but that isn't the end of the story. However, before we continue with that conversation, we must address Alice, Max, Sam, Casey, and Del, who are all involved in a situation that I don't believe will be resolved before the conclusion of The Way Home Season 3. After Kat returned, Del took some time for herself and was understandably upset for a few days. Both that and the fact that Jacob didn't come home seemed to genuinely irritate Sam. "What the hell was he thinking?" he said. It didn't sound like a guy inquiring after his girlfriend's son. "Do you know where he is?" He seemed to know Jacob better than he did. Also didn't seem right when Sam claimed that Del Casey was his client and that he was unable to divulge further information due to attorney-client privilege. In addition, Alice discovered a burner phone and a bishop chess piece in the not-so-hidden recess in the wall when she snuck into Susanna and Evie's attic room while studying with Max. Regarding whether Max and Louis are connected to any of this, however, he inquired about Jacob while seeming to be concerned about his inheritance, and Elliot informed Alice that he was close to Evelyn and was grieving her passing. He also disclosed that Casey, of course, had been a squatter at Lingermore during the summer. Casey appeared just as Del and Alice were speaking, and the way she said Sam gave the impression that she was referring to him by a different name. In addition, Rob Stewart, who plays Sam, stated in an interview that he's not who you think he is, and I know who I thought he was that he isn't, and that he's part of the upcoming season finale and its cliffhangers. These factors, along with the fact that it's clear he knows too much, and that the way he bought the land next door seems dubious, are part of the reason why the internet is ablaze with the possibility that he could be Colton. However difficult it was for you to trust Colton before he passed away, that does not mean that you can't trust me, he said to Dell, feeling irritated and even a little angry. I am unable to determine whether he is a good or evil person. Is he Vic, Cyrus, or Colton? Does he just seem like a random guy? If he were the latter, I would be most shocked. However, Jacob added that he and Dell are the only two individuals who haven't spent more time with Colton. Elliot even returned for his additional 15 minutes. We later learned, however, that Jacob did spend time with Colton. The young man who instructed Elijah and Jacob to plant rye and potatoes was Colton. Can we really believe that despite his intense love for Dell, Colton would move heaven and earth and alter the pond's very composition in order to win her back? It makes more sense that the ending is about Colton than it did when we first assumed the title. The Way Home was about Jacob. Yes, he did die, or did he? It's science fiction. I'm not excluding anything. Casey and Alice ran into each other on their way to and from the pond, and Alice inquired about the ring around Casey's neck, as if that weren't enough. The ring belongs to a family, but not the Goodwins. And the chase started as soon as Casey said that. Casey either goes back to where they came from or drowns in the pond. That should come as no surprise, but Alice was nonetheless overwhelmed by the confirmation of her assumptions. Alice must be inconsolable now because it is obvious that the ring is a Landry heritage. I ponder as I sat there, scratching my head. How in the world has this family never transmitted the meaning of that pond through Landry lore? Why do they keep it such a treasured secret until it happens to the person who is now affected? It's a lot and has caused chaos for multiple families. When Rita put on her conspiracy hat and informed Dell that Sam was conducting business with some former clients in Toronto, I couldn't help but giggle. Given Sam's concern for her, she pondered whether one of those people might be pursuing Dell, that Dell actually told someone about the letters made me very happy. You know, it must have felt great to let someone in and get that off her chest. I know Sam and he wouldn't hide something like that from me, she remarked, but what did she mean? Dell should be aware that concealing things is normal if she knows Sam even half as well as she knows her own family. However, Elliot was depressed and processing his kiss with Emma, so it wasn't really all that occurred during Tell Me Something Good. Nick assured him that he and Kat will eventually find each other again, but he didn't appear to be persuaded of anything. However, Elliot made a statement earlier that caught my attention. I was content. Everything with Kat was going well. I believe I was, however. Has Elliot ever appeared content to others? Have Kat and Elliot ever appeared to be genuinely content with one another? Nick chose the most offensive song ever when he tricked the bereaved couple into joining him for a karaoke session to patch things up. For someone who used to carry a guitar, he has no musical knowledge. In my opinion, Kat and Elliot were genuinely uncomfortable while they sang that song, even if they had never appeared cheerful before. However, the designers utilized that moment to present a montage of Kat and Elliot, and I didn't feel any better about them as a couple after watching any of the footage. It wasn't because their love was failing that they appeared unhappy. They seemed to be acknowledging that they had never truly loved one another. When Elliot informed Kat about Emma, Kat couldn't really be unhappy. To find what they need, they are both running to the past. It would be much simpler than this if all they needed was one another. What did Nick mean when he said always? They had never been together before to this. She found out she was pregnant, and that was the end of their brief time together at the party. That was a single fantasy night that was never more than a dream or a hope. Does that imply that it shouldn't be worth anything at this point? Not necessary, but it's ridiculous to act like they were in a romantic relationship. With a fleeting glimpse of something greater, they were always best friends. In any case, even though Dell didn't believe she wanted to see people saying at last we have something in common, she did, and Kat and she, if not Kat and Elliot, enjoyed the music. Kat went back to 1814 to see Susanna after her relationship with Elliot soured, but Thomas was waiting for her there as usual, hiding behind a tree. I'm starting to believe he has information about her whereabouts because it's so strange. She was upset and informed him that Elliot had kissed someone else. Seeing that she was in pain, Thomas gave her a passionate kiss, as all rakes do. She was taken aback by their kiss, but I couldn't read her expression. Could you? What was the response? She was thinking about 1,000 things, but I was unable to understand any of them. Is it almost time for them to die? When she and Elliot are turning away from each other after we've all just regained them?